Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're talking about the skilled worker visa in the UK, what was earlier known as the Tier 2 General Work Visa. I've made lots of content about this in the past, but since then there have been more changes than I can actually count. And it's the most important visa in the UK. It allows you to take your family along, it allows you to do more than one job, and it allows you to apply for residency, all of which we're going to discuss today. In today's video, we'll be breaking down the eligibility for a skilled worker visa, how to apply for a skilled worker visa, how much it's going to cost you, the best job portals to get a job in the UK, what work you can do on a skilled worker visa, and a lot more. So remember to watch all the way till the end. If you're new, I'm Ashika, and on this channel we talk about moving to the UK or any other country in the world to either study or work. And with that, let's dive in. Now, the reason why this visa is so important and popular is because this visa not only allows you to move to the UK and do a job, but it also allows you to take up additional work. On this visa, you can work for up to 20 hours a week in a second job or work on your own business. And if you take the minimum wages, that's 11.44 an hour, that's about additionally £900 a month. You can also study in the UK, you can bring your partner and your children along with you, and you can apply for permanent residency, what is known as indefinite leave to remain or ILR, after just 5 years. Now, if you go about the normal way of successfully landing a job, you start off by coming across a relevant opening. Then you apply for this opening by sending in your CV. But remember, your CV needs to be really strong for you to stand a chance. And if you need help reviewing your CV, you can book a one-on-one consultation with our CV consultant who has helped hundreds of people. To book a session, just visit this page. After this, you would give typically multiple rounds of interviews for this job. And if you're successful, you receive a job offer. Now, while applying for a job to work in the UK from outside the country, all of these steps are exactly the same. The difference begins from after you get the job offer. So the first step for you to get is a job offer. The important point for you to remember is that not all jobs are eligible for sponsorship in the UK. Many jobs are eligible, but some jobs aren't. You should know if your job is eligible or not so you don't waste your time. Now, to know if your job is eligible, you need to know the particular job code for that particular job. And in the UK, every job has a job code attached to it. To find out the code, visit this page. Enter your designation here and assume you're the head of digital media. The code is 1132. Next, visit this page and hit Ctrl F on your keyboard. The last column here mentions if the job is eligible for sponsorship or not, and like you can see, it's eligible for sponsorship. The next step is to ensure the job is from a licensed sponsor. To work in the UK, you need to get a job offer, but only from a licensed sponsor. If an employer is not a licensed sponsor, they can apply to become licensed sponsors and then you can apply for a visa. But if they aren't licensed sponsors and they don't apply for the license either, you cannot move to the UK even if they make you a job offer. So how do you know if somebody is a licensed sponsor or not? Well, there are two ways. You can either check the government registry, and it's an Excel sheet that you can download from here and search and look for it. Or you can visit this website because it's a lot easier to use and they have a search option right there. The next thing you need to do is check the salary offered. For you to get a skilled worker visa, you need to meet the salary requirements for your specific job. Your job would need to pay whichever is higher, either £38,700 a year or the going rate for the type of work that you'll be doing. The going rate is basically the minimum you can be paid for a particular job. To check the going rate for your job, visit this page and use the job code that I showed you how to get earlier, and you can check the going rate from there. Take the example of the head of digital media from earlier. The job code was 1132. The standard going rate is £83,000. Now keep in mind that the going rate is not the same for every job. The going rate for a cybersecurity professional is $45,300. For a project manager, it's $51,900. Now in all of these examples, the going rate is higher than $38,700 a year. So you would need to be paid the going rate. So if you're a head of digital media and you want to get a sponsored job to work in the UK, you would need to be paid at least £83,000 per year. But assume you're a data analyst. The going rate is $33,200. But since it needed the higher of the two, you need a job that offers you at least $38,700. Now there are certain scenarios, of course, in which you could be paid less. One is if you're under 26, studying, or a recent graduate, or in professional training. Then you can be paid 70% of your job standard going rate if your salary is at least 30,960. If you have a STEM PhD level qualification that's relevant to your job, you can be paid 80% of your job's going rate as long as you'll be paid at least £30,960 a year. If you have a postdoctoral position in science or higher education, you can be paid 70% of your job's standard going rate. If you have a relevant PhD level qualification in any subject other than a STEM subject, your salary should be at least $26,100. You can also be paid less if the job is on the immigration salary list, but that's a little tricky. You get a 20% discount on the minimum rate, which is $38,700, but it also depends on the going rate for your job. And you can find the whole immigration salary list here. For instance, if you're an archaeologist, the job falls under the immigration salary list. With a 20% discount, it makes £30,960. But unfortunately, the going rate for an archaeologist is $36,400, and it is whichever is higher. So for an archaeologist to be eligible for sponsorship, it would need to be at least $36,400 in salary. Now assume you get a job offer and the employer is a licensed sponsor and you meet the salary criteria. You need to start the process of applying for a visa. For that, you first need a COS, or a certificate of sponsorship. A COS is an e-document that has a specific reference number that is needed to apply for a visa. Only a licensed sponsor can give you a COS, and only after you get a job offer from them. You cannot apply for a COS yourself. Now, while only your employer can apply for a COS, when it comes to applying for a visa, either you or your employer can apply for it. Some companies cover the entire cost. Other companies ask the employee to pay for it. So when you discuss the visa with your employer, you would need to bring up this point in case they don't. The visa by itself costs anywhere from £719 to £1,639. You can apply online from here, and you will have to give your biometrics later, either at a centre or use the UKVI app. You'll also have to pay the IHS, or the Immigration Health Surcharge, which is about £1,035 a year. So depending on the number of years your visa is for, this amount gets multiplied, and this is for each person. So if you're applying with a family, each person needs to pay the IHS. Now, when you apply for your visa, you will need to provide the following: your COS number, proof of knowledge of English, which is the IELTS test, your passport, your job title and your annual salary, your job's occupation code, the name of your employer and their sponsor license number, which will be available on your COS. And depending on which country you're from, you might need to take a TB test. You'll also need to provide proof of your relationship if you're applying with your family, and proof of funds, which is basically to prove that you can financially support yourself in the UK, which is £1,270. Or your employer would need to prove that they can cover you for up to £1,270 for a month. Now, let's talk about how you can actually get a job. You can either apply for a job online, and when it comes to portals, I'd say check Indeed, LinkedIn, read gov.uk CV Library, Google Jobs, Total Jobs, and Glassdoor. And also remember to set an alert so you know as soon as a job opening that's relevant to you goes out. What you also need to do is check the career section of websites that you're interested in. Sometimes jobs go up there before they even go on to job portals. Or you can network with recruiting managers in the UK in companies that you're interested in. And I cannot emphasize enough the power of networking, which I probably will make an entire video on later because it's a very vast topic. But remember, to get a job, you need a CV that isn't just a good CV, but it's a great CV that is tailored for that job. Because you aren't going to be the only person applying for a job. If you see openings in the UK, there are sometimes openings which have more than 100 people applying for each job. So if you want that job, your CV better be pretty good. It needs to detail not only what you've done, but also show the hiring manager that you are the right person for this job. Now, if you need any help building that absolutely perfect CV, watch this.